left to the police to make that announcement?
Sorry?
Why was it left to the police to make that announcement? I know you'd alluded to it, but it was...
Yeah.
Why wasn't it you telling us about the new fine? Why was it left to...
I'm happy to talk about the new fine, but those matters are, I think, rightly the work of Victoria Police, but I'm happy to say the new fine's nearly $5,000 and police are not mucking about, and if you're in regional Victoria and you're from Melbourne and you don't have a lawful excuse, you will be fined. And I think that is appropriate. Regional Victorians have given a lot. They've achieved an amazing result. We need to jealously guard the low virus status of regional Victoria. And one of the ways, not the only way, but one of the ways we do that is having, just not having people make unlawful and unnecessary trips into regional Victoria, because all that potentially does is spread this virus and put at risk the opening up and the different position that regional Victoria is in. The more this spreads, the further away as well, can I say, the Melbourne getting open up will be. So we've all got to be focused on those important things, driving these numbers down.
There's not much of a ring of steel if they disappear at the first sign of rain, though, is it?
Oh, well, again, I'll leave it to Victoria Police to talk about how these things work. But I'm very confident that there's a massive police effort going into this with support from others. These fines are very, very significant. And I think, to put it in broad terms, Laurel, anyone who thinks they might, you know, take a punt on heading to regional Victoria and not getting caught, I think your odds are very poor. You should not go to regional Victoria unless you've got a lawful reason to do that. I don't think that's too much to ask either, frankly. Look, it's just a simple thing that that will allow us to keep, it'll help to keep the numbers in regional Victoria low.
There are some business owners who live in metropolitan areas who thought they'd be able to open up under the easing of restrictions in regional Victoria, only to find they can't. Is there anything that can be done to help them?
Yeah, I think that the public health team would look at those on a case-by-case basis. Again, I'm not wanting to prejudge that. That wouldn't be a decision that was made by me, but I'm sure that we're happy to try and work through those issues with people. For instance, I think Jenny was asked a few questions yesterday about surgeons, for instance, travelling from Melbourne to go and do surgical lists in regional Victoria. It's not exclusive, but it's a large feature of elective surgery in some specialty fields. We're going to try and bulk up those lists to do them in the short run, so do 2 or 3 days instead of coming back every week for 3 weeks, for instance. All of those sorts of things. So we're open to trying to cater as best we can, and there is a process to look at the individual circumstances. But I would just say, with the greatest of respect to those people, every exemption can potentially undermine the goal. Every exemption, because once you grant a whole bunch of them, then you finish up having to grant even more, and then you've got less people that are subject to the rules than those who've been exempted from them, and that doesn't really work.
So if you owned a non-essential business, say a beauty salon in regional Victoria, you think it would be unlikely you would be granted an exemption?
I wouldn't make a judgment. What I'd say is that process is one that looks at the merits of each case. The details of that, they're not known to me, but we'll be more than happy to follow that up. And I think that's the fair and reasonable thing for us to do.
So, when you've got somebody from metro area and they're in regions for legitimate work reasons, what expectations of behaviour would be placed on that person?
Well, the rules are really important, and you should be wearing a mask. You should be there doing what you lawfully need to do, and you should be mindful, not just as a function of the rules, but just as a function of common sense. If you're from an area where there is much more virus and you're going into an area lawfully where there's much less, then you have to, I think, err on the side of caution, and just to be really, really vigilant. So the mask wearing it properly, hand hygiene, all of those things, I think they really come into their own. And I'm really confident that people who, to use your example, they'll value the fact that they can lawfully travel to regional Victoria for whatever the reason may be. And I don't think it's too much to ask that they really be vigilant around that. And all the people that they're dealing with in regional Victoria will value that, I'm pretty confident. And they won't have contributed to the spread of the virus, and it's a wholly good thing.
Could they be fined, though, potentially for not behaving in a certain fashion?
Oh, well, fines are issued based on the individual circumstances of whatever Victoria Police encounter. But many warnings are given as well, where that's deemed appropriate. But fines are issued too, so that's on its own merits, if you like. There are rules, of course, but circumstances can be quite complex.